the intense ones are like the ones that you leave work that day. And it just, for me at least, like that just sits with you and that sticks with you. And it's really hard for me to separate like work from my emotions in my life and stuff. Like
Well,
I,
because you're human.
yeah, because you're human. I mean, like I saw dead bodies and I saw families like houses burned to the ground and leave them with nothing. Like I, you have to be prepared to show up for people on their worst days and on their best days. And I think that's a really hard thing to do. And um, for me personally, like I think that really expanded my point of view of just people and like what people go through. And it gives you such a big heart for other people's experiences and stuff. But I think just as a storyteller, you learn compassion. You learn when it's appropriate to step in and when it's appropriate to stay away.
Yeah.
I think that's something that more journalists could honestly learn. Like you have to remember that these people are human and they're, again, you're approaching them on the worst days of their lives. So how are you going to go about that story in a way that's sensitive to what they're experiencing, but also you have a job as a journalist to educate the community about, maybe a shooting that happened. Like you have to be there to get that story, to maybe talk to the family, but you have to balance that out with being sensitive of what's going on.
Did, did
So
did
it's
stories like that play a factor in your departure? Because
I think a little bit.
that can be really hard for people. Like
Yeah,
I spent a summer interning at my local Fox station
yeah.
in DC, so big market,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh, I can never do this. This is way too much crime,
Yeah.
way too much murder, way too much robbery. Like I just couldn't do it. Like, was that a thing for you?
It was. Palm Springs is, again, it's a really small market and it's honestly a really safe, like close knit community. And so we would have those stories occasionally. But when I was thinking long term, for example, like thinking about working in Boston, I knew that those stories, the like we wouldn't cover that kind of stuff that much in Palm Springs, and when we did, it took such a toll on me. But I
Yeah.
knew that in Boston or in Dallas, for example, like there's a lot of crap that goes on. There's a lot of like, bad stuff that happens, and like it's a big city with big city problems, and you're gonna have to be around that a lot. And I think it's really important that we have people that do that a
Yeah.
hundred percent. But I didn't know if like I could personally like mentally do that. It because it really
Yeah.
would take a toll on me. And um it was one of those things where, like I said, I wanted to handle all those stories with so much care and compassion. I wanted to follow up with the family. I wanted to be someone that they could go to if they needed a resource. Like we had so many connections at the news station that if somebody needed to talk to the fire chief, like I could get them in direct communication with them. And I wanted to like give that kind of care and concern to the stories. And I kind of felt like if I go to a bigger market, I might not have time
Yeah.
to do
So many
that.
things
And
are
I
moving
almost
at
felt
once.
like there's a world where you get hardened to that stuff. And I didn't know if I wanted that for myself. Like
Yeah.
I liked the way that I could be very compassionate and caring and receive that sort of like love and care from the community back. Like having that relationship with people that I talk to is so important. But yeah, in a big city, it's like get your story done, get in, get out. And I don't know if I could take that. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to, yeah, mentally withstand that. And I have all the respect in the world for the people who do because it's such an important job and people have to do that. Um, and journalists, they're like, yeah, just such a pillar in communities. And I think people maybe kind of overlook that, but it's crazy how much we see, especially in these bigger markets, how much we do for the community. Like, I think a lot of times that gets overlooked and i'm I'm proud that I was able to do that for as long as I was.
Yeah.
Long term, I think it would have taken a toll on me for sure.
How does that compassion that you learned covering suicide, covering crime, covering robberies, how do you use that compassion to cover the masters and talk about the cheek elements of it or the stylish
Totally.
parts.
You know what? That's a funny question because you kind of think like whatever, it's sports and it at the end of
No,
the day,
they're intertwined. They're
it's
intertwined.
nothing like that serious at the end of the day. But I think a big thing for me and like for my brand and for who I want to be long term is like I always want to build trust with people, whether that's uh Tiger Woods or the person in Palm Springs who, just lost their home. Like I want that sort of trust in my career, like as a journalist. I want to be someone that I don't want to come after anyone. I don't want to like make anyone look bad. And so I think in sports, a big thing for me is like I don't prey or I try not to prey on athletes' downfalls or their worst moment in their lives. Like there's so much sports gossip that you can get into, which I'd be lying if I said like I didn't read those articles and I didn't participate in like Twitter looking at stuff and like being kind of interested in like what's going on with Mike Vrabel, right? But it's I think at the same time I'm almost like that's a man with a family and like, this is bigger than gossip. And, obviously I disagree with what he did, but like, there's people behind him that had nothing to do with this, that are dealing with this, that have to look at this and see it everywhere. Like, I don't want to be a part of that narrative. And I don't want to be, I think in sports, a good thing about it is a lot of times it is not that serious. And so, like, for me, if I can spread positivity, you know, that's gonna that's going to go further in my career with the relationships I make and the people that I, get close to and the happy stories I can tell. And so the way I kind of go about it, because I also don't want to make, an asshole look like a saint,
Yeah.
pardon my French, but I try just to not even touch those people or publicize those people because they don't deserve my
Well,
time.
you shouldn't talk about the Cowboys at all, you Cowboys fan.
Come on, be quiet with all that. But that's the thing. I'm like, I'm not going to publicize a bad person who does bad things because
Yeah.
my publicity is typically positive. Like I want to be positive and I want to tell positive, uplifting stories. And so I always focus on like who are the athletes that are doing great things in their communities, who, have amazing stories. Like I want to focus on the positive, and I think that long term is the move. I think the sports gossip and stuff can get a little clickbaity, which is tempting at times when you're trying to grow an audience. It's like,
Yeah.
ooh, I kind of do want to talk about XYZ, but long term, it's best that I don't.